Hello.
Great.
Hi. Hi. Good evening, everyone. We're back again for another workshop with TezAsia. And tonight we have Srinivas, who is a product design lead at Tezos. Hi, Srinivas. He'll be giving a workshop today on how to use plenty design files to build your decentralized application. Um, Without further ado, Srinivas, go ahead if you have a presentation.
Yeah. Thanks, Evan. Thanks for that intro. Like, hi everyone. Like, good evening and welcome to TezAsia's Hackathon. And I'm here to present you guys on what is design and how you can build the complete dapp user interface on design. Like, let me just share my screen. I hope it's visible.
Yes.
Great. Yeah. Uh, today I'm particularly talking about Plenty's design files, how you can build your dapp using Plenty's design files that we have made open source. And talking about Plenty, it's Plenty's decks on Tezos, and we are on a mission to make our products accessible for everyone. And making it accessible, it's quite a challenge for web3. Like, we are trying to like build interfaces that is seamless for users to interact with, and seamless for people, like new people to adopt with. So yeah, moving forward. Yeah. So I just wanted to give an example about what we are going to talk about here. By answering, like, just wanted to bring you guys on the same page about what is design and what is design thinking, particularly. Talking about design thinking, particularly, why? Because like it's entirely about the experience and the process that goes into building the entire interface. Talking about design thinking, like, I would just want to give an example about a coffee maker and a person who's drinking a coffee from the coffee maker. So, like, talking about these two examples, like, when you look at a coffee maker that's just perfect in itself, with the perfect amount of brew and temperature and giving the right amount of taste to the coffee, would people prefer that a coffee maker more than the experience they get by drinking that coffee provided by that coffee maker? So it just matters, right? Like, the experience matters. Like, that's when we wanted to rethink about uh, design thinking and the process we need to draft from, and articulate the things and reasons behind building that coffee maker, and let people use it effectively and efficiently across the different during the different process and stages while they interact with the coffee maker. That's when, like, experience matters. Experience definitely matters. And nowadays, like, be it web 2 or web 3, like, people are building solutions like coffee makers more than the experiences. Like, we just wanted to put a hard stop on Plenty, and we wanted to redefine the experience a bit more. And we wanted to build more experience than coffee makers parallelly. Like, along with the solutions, we wanted to experience make the experience also equally splendid for a user or for any human who is interacting with that coffee maker. And now, like, talking about design, let's talk design. We'll be talking a lot of design in this session. And like, the first and the foremost is design thinking. And why design thinking matter? Like, the process behind and the rationale behind all the design, the design thinking that goes along with building a dapp. And how you would build the dapp using the design process that you discuss and come up with your stakeholders, and with your themes and tasks that you taken up during the hackathon. Like, all these processes on design thinking will help you into streamlining the entire uh, way of thinking, and then you'll be able to achieve that intent, like, pretty soon. And in understanding the users and making them aware of aware of them on the same page, like making them be on the same page is something missing on the current software development process. And that's when this session would be very much helpful for you guys here. And we would be talking more about design thinking in the initial stages, and furthermore we would talk about design system for plenty, and how the design system was built, the rationale behind the design system, how you went through each and every design thinking process, and how the design thinking process was helpful in building the entire design system for plenty. And we would have a short heuristic evolution at the end, and then we can gather a few questions, and let's discuss about furthermore about the design process. So moving forward, like before we move forward, like I would just want to know, like how many of you know what design thinking is. Like maybe you can add your emoticons on your comments. Yeah, if I could, I'm not able to see the emoticons, but yeah, I'll assume that like a pretty, at least one of a person know about design thinking. And like talking about design thinking to me, it's a mindset. So it's a mindset that aims to improve the solution of the people through experience this they have. So when you talk about experiences, like it's not just about you would want to you would want to build coffee makers. Like okay, like we have the best coffee makers built in the whole world, and we'll let users use it, and we'll assume that like the experience is better. So it's not just about that. Like it's about, you would want to let your users interact with that coffee maker very seamlessly, very in a very interactable way, and people can like without any jargon, they are able to like they are able to uh, go through the entire experiences very seamlessly, and they experience that drinking of that coffee at the end. Like that's what matters. Like this is just an example of a coffee maker, but it can be like it can be put in through for software development, your personal life, and anything that you wanted to work on. Like particularly for this hackathon, like based on the themes and the tasks you select on, the entire process depends upon and the design thinking process that you go through. Yeah. So a design thinking, furthermore, like the main focus for design thinking, I would say, is like the user outcomes. The first and foremost, it's the user outcomes. So like when you choose a design thinking way of approach, you would want to consider your users, and secondly, like you would want to restlessly reinvent the wheel. Like you just wanted to go above and beyond software development or like solution building, and whatever tasks that you take up, and never consider anything the final output. Like you just wanted to consider everything as a prototype. And thirdly, like it's involving as a team. Like even in hackathon, like when you involve yourself as a team, you're involved with diverse teams, like four members of team or three members of team, and you're trying to come up with solutions. Like you're trying to come up with something that it solves users outcomes, like users mind and problems. And you discuss about that further during the brainstorming session or before you even start with. Look, so firstly, like when talking about user outcomes, like it's about solving old problems in new ways. So talking further, that when you wanted to focus on your team and your work around the users, you're more easily like decide what's important. Like you just wanted to focus only on the user outcomes that matter at the end. So everyone on the team or a person who's working on the solution always needs to be focused on the user outcomes more than anything else. This makes you offering more essential the people who use them. Like people always want that solutions at the end. Like yeah, it does matter, but the experience along with the solutions is what we need for like bridging the gap for the experiences that matter. And secondly, restless reinvention. So when you take up any task, and when you take up anything on let's say like anything as a during the hackathon, like when you take up any theme, like you just wanted to restlessly reinvent the entire process. You just have to be continuously testing. You just have to learn and unlearn the entire process of the whole module and the task that you work on. That's very much essential, like a member like who is involved in that project. And that's when you can achieve the final kind of output that users want, like that the user outcomes are achieved with. So talking about that, like I would want everyone to be considering your project, your process, to always be like a prototype, and not consider it as a prototype only then like you would be able to look for more solutions furthermore while during the discussion that happened with your team, and then you can achieve that user outcomes at the end. And thirdly, like about the diverse teams, like uh, one significance about involving yourself in diverse team is like when you're trying to ideate on tasks and projects, like when you're involved with the team, like you would be able to get a lot of insights, a lot of new ideations when you involve yourself with multiple people from various of geographies and various of interest and domains. That's when you would be reinventing the wheel. Like you would just be a par apart from others. Like that's very much essential for software development or anything that matters uh, uh, on dapp building as well. Like so you would want to be involved with a team that's very much diverse and of varied interest. That's something you would want to consider before you start with the task. Yeah. So moving forward, okay, one second. Yeah. Yeah. So why design thinking? Like when we talk about all these uh, different principles of design thinking, like the user outcomes, the diverse teams that are involved with, like you would want to consider everything as a prototype. Why we need to do this? Like why is like primarily like when you plan on how like a service or a product or a task on how to function, like these are the essentials that are involved into like taking decisions and rational behind all these processes. A design process follows a linear process. Like I will just come to an elaborate session after this slide. Like I'll just go through the entire process on how it works after this slide. But like the design process is a linear process of exploration of problems and solution to this problem, and then executing on the adequate solution. So like let's say like we know the solution that we want to build, and we don't know how to start. Like we don't know what people perceive about the solutions. That's when you would want to consider design thinking into your perspective, and then involve yourself into a lot of uh, process of design thinking at different stages of your software development or your dapp building, and during the hackathon as well. Yeah. So the first process, this is typically a design thinking model. Like this is how a design thinking model works. Like I know, like this may sound a bit off the topic, but like these are the processes, and these are the things that we got involved with while building the Plenty's design system for the like months back. Like we went into researching about why we need to do it, what we need to do it, what the users want to do it. Like all these questions, like all these nuances were answered. Like we were having a lot of discussions about the revamping of the entire interface, like constructing the design system. And this may be helpful for you guys also during the entire process of the hackathon as well. So the first and foremost is empathizing. Like I would want everyone to be on all the different processes here, but like for now, as a typical process involves designers on empathizing about the entire problem statement. Let's say, like let's say a theme that you select on. First is about empathizing. uh, it's about identifying the journey. Like you would want to identify, like, okay, like where I stand on the problem statement, what I need to do about the problem statement, analyze the problem statement, and understand the need. Like you just wanted to set a goal after this. Like so you just need to understand about who the users are, what the aim is. Like all the research that goes on is happening on the first stage here, like that a designer is involved with. And the entire process of empathizing involves just about researching, and we are still not starting the designs or like the front end till now. Like we are just talking about how you wanted to start with the process, how you wanted to like understand the users, how you wanted to understand the problem statement. And next is empathizing is like further talking about this, it is essential and that you go watch some people do activities you wanted to make solutions for. So like this is like like seeing a user use your favorite app, and like how they're facing it, how they're like pursuing that app. Like what is the experience that you can like see seeing that user. How do you want to rate that experience with? Like that's something, it's very essential for a designer to understand the entire process. Like if you might have a already existing app, like you may test with the user into understanding what the pain points are, and from that, like you can build a solution that's very much well and good. Like that's how you can come up with a lot of new solutions which you can draft on this first process itself. And secondly, it's the defining. Like you would want to define the problem statement. Like when you wanted to talk about defining the problem statement, it's like identifying the journey again. Like you would want to understand what you went through on the first process of empathizing, the needs and aims for it. Like you would just want to extract all the pain points that you got from the research that you had on the first process. So like when you're done with the first process, you get a clear idea of extracting all the pain points that a user might have or during the whole journey, like for a software development. And then you can define the problem statement, refine the problem statement that you want to build for. And and yeah. Yeah. So defining is also like ask a lot of why and what's, and a lot of questions during this process, so that like you come up with the best kind of a problem statement that you wanted to build with. And you can also do the competitive analysis during this process, and you come up with the best problem statement after this. And then ideating. So like when you're done with empathizing the users and empathizing about the product, and you are very much solid about what you want to build on the second process, you have defined the problem statement. This is where you wanted to come up with solutions like that you wanted to build during this process. At this stage, you may want to involve the team as well entirely on what you and how you want to build. How might we is something that you can take up sessions with the team. You just brainstorm with the team. You can brainstorm with the entire members of your team and come up with a lot of ideation. It's not just about qualitative ideas, like you just have to eliminate the obvious ones, right? Like, and then talking about ideas, it's just about quantity first. You would want to come up with a lot of ideas uh, to come up with a solution at the end. Like quantitative is more than quality when it comes to ideation. And coming up with from the ideas, like you can storyboard your ideas, a very small comic kind of a storyboard on how users journey start and end with, like the entire process of people interacting with their interface, or like people starting the day with that interface, like anything on software development as such. So particularly about dapp browser, you would want to consider how a user is connecting a wallet, how a user is building that cognition, that like they have to start the process from top and end the process on the bottom. How do we communicate things like all the jargons like that after you connect your wallet? How do you communicate that like the wallet has been connected? Like what are the visual cues that we wanted to look into at uh, different times for the process? So like all these things can be ideated during this stage, and people can uh, work on a prototype, which is the fourth process, based on the ideas that we generate on in the previous stages. And talking about prototypes, it's not just about starting the front end. You wouldn't want to start your front end right after this, but you would want to fail fast. For failing fast, you would want to come up with paper prototypes. Like maybe it can be storyboard, like I said previously. And it could also not just be a storyboard, it could just be a wireframe, a low fidelity wireframe, that you can decide decisions from there. Seeing the uh, discussions happening during the stage, like along with the team, as well as when you send the prototypes with the people and peers in your team as well, then you would understand like whether we need to proceed with this prototype or not. So like that's when we wanted to fail fast in this process, and so that like we are moving in the right direction. Yeah. So it's just about seeing the behaviors in action. We would want to look at how people perceive the interface. It's not about colors. It's not about the size, the scale on of how the front end should look like. It's just about people, how they think about a wireframe of the prototype. And the fifth stage is where you would want to test that prototype. So like as when I talk about prototype, once the initial stages of ruling down the process of uh, the not so friendly interface, and you would want to move into the high fidelity mockups, high fidelity prototypes. That's where you can test with the developers and your peers, and you can start talking about that interface. Product add-on calls can happen, and you can also send that high fidelity prototypes to the focus group, so that you can get what they perceive about. You can get feedbacks from them, and then you can reiterate back to ideation stage if necessary, like based on the feedback that you get from, and then again start the process here. So it's just like, again, like I said, like reinventing the wheel. It's about restless reinvention. So like all these processes are interdependent. So at any stage, like during the prototype and test, if you might find any feedbacks, you're easily, or you're just allowed to go back to defining the problem statement again, or like go back to ideating the ideas like in a better way. Yeah. And lastly, once you're all done with the testing, and once you're all once you went through the entire process of testing, and you would want to send it to the implementation stage. That's where you wanted to bring in the assets, all the assets together. And as a designer, you would want to consider all the different nuances that would come, the empty states that would come, and bring in a document that can be easily handed off to a developer who will be working on the front end. And it's about solving all the interactions during this stage. You wouldn't want to leave out any nuances for all the different screens, or for all the different uh, interactions or journeys that you come up with. So that's the process of the design thinking here. We'll move forward with the plenty design files here. So when you talk about a handoff, so when you wanted to send that handoff to a developer, so there are a lot of constraints. Talking about the UI component, like you wanted to consider about the grid system. You wanted to be involving you wanted to add a lot of animations, and talking about multiple environments like the mobile responsiveness and the different assets that you bring, that you send for that handoff. Like all these are involved during that handoff stage. And talking about Plenty's design system, we have made sure that like the whole file, the entire Figma file is built in that way that like anybody can just duplicate that file. And all these constraints till now, like talking about the process of design thinking, understanding the user outcomes, everything was handled. And then we revamped the Plenty's interface a months back, and that's when we made it open source for you guys to access. So the Plenty's design system file, like, so talking about the hero of the session here, we just I just want to walk you through, guys, like how you can access the particular file. It's like we have given a link on the comment section. I guess like Ivan has provided that link. So through that link you can just go into that particular link. You can access the Plenty design system file. Before that, like you would want to create a Figma account, and then you can uh, land into the Plenty design system file here. You can click on the CTA here, get a copy. By clicking it, like it will just get duplicated into your Figma file, and it can be accessible uh, on your Figma's account. So it's we have just segregated pages, the different pages of the components, the style guides that we used, the typographies as well. We made sure like it's easier for people to just directly take this file and then start building their cool stuff and solutions on top of it. And we have a foundation, and yeah, like we have the different modules as well, the swap, bridges, and liquidity. Like I'll just go through one by one. So this is how you get the design file. We have added the link on the comment section. And first and foremost, when talking about the design system, like when I wanted to talk about the foundation, like all the foundations are here. Like we have a logo like on the top. Like we have a few elements on the menu here. We have a CTF to connect the wallet, and a settings icon as well. Okay, like before even going into all these foundations, like uh, what you need to do from uh, before even building a dapp browser or like anything on dex on dex on the desktop. So on desktop, like you would want to uh, open your Figma file, a new file or something, and then you would want to uh, like start a artboard of size, let's say 1440 into 812. So this is a standard size, like people can start for like building any dexes or anything of a website uh, to start with. Like anything will be of this standard size, and after that, like you can arrange your grids. Like so, particularly for Plenty's design system, like we have a grid system of uh, 12 in count, 12 in number, with centrally aligned. So all these things you can do it over over in the grid layout here. All you have to do is you would want to make the count as 12, 12, and maybe you can, okay, like the opacity is also reduced, and you may want to centrally align it, and you want to make it 88, and you have a gutter space of 16. And once you're done with this, like when you copy this particular navigation and paste it over here, it will just be within this boundary. It will just be within this boundary. And why this matters is, like when talking about grid system and talking about the different environments like that we want to deal with, we have to set the grid and layout right. So for in Plenty, we have made sure the navigation system and all the different elements and components that come are within the grid system, and it's easily like responsive at different scales, be it like a tabular format or be it mobile responsiveness. Like everything is just very much easier. Yeah, you may want to start with the grid first, and then uh, further talking about the navigation itself. So when talking about navigation, it's very much essential that like people are able to perceive where they want to start with. Like when we talk about a lot of different modules on swap, like you can swap your tokens, and you may want to look at different pools, like all these different functionalities. Like if you wanted to put it upfront on the interface here, like it's just very difficult. For a first fold of 812 pixel in height, like it's just not doable, like for a proper kind of an interface. That's when you need a navigation system, like a navigation to drive users from one module to the other in a very seamless way. That's when we went into a navigation, or a top navigation, that just looks like a very seamless model of arranging all the different submenus below all the primary menus here. Like for example, on the trade we have swap, tokens, and stable swap. So every modules in here, every containers in here, containers by it I mean like all the different uh, containers like in here are editable. Like you may easily duplicate this, and you can replace the text from here. It's that easy after you duplicate the Plenty's design system. And then you may also want to add a few like interactions also, like during the entire process. Interactions I mean like uh, when you wanted to scroll over different submenus, you may add visual cues like in here during the entire process. It's just not about building a solution again, like it's about having that experience for that whole solution. So this actually matters from a user perspective, from an adoption perspective. It's very much essential. And talking about the navigation further, like it involves a pattern, I pattern as Z. It starts from the top left from here, and then moves all the way to the downwards with the other modules on the down. So it's when you look at Plenty's website, it's just on the top. Like you have everything on the top. uh, you have your navigation system on the top. It's just easy for users to navigate from one modules to the other, and then start the journey from the bottom here. So that was the rationale behind using a top navigation. And we had less number of functionalities. That's when we moved into top navigation, and it takes a lesser space. Yeah, like it takes about 60 to 90 pixel. That's very much nice, and it's good for products with less menus and functionalities. As I said, we had to handle very few number of functionalities. That's when we moved into a top navigation, and users, and the primary intent, like again, is users should be aware about like where they're located. Like for example, like when I move into Plenty, and when I see this liquidity screen, like I would give a visual cue about where I stand, even on the navigation system with the color change here. So that is something we have handled on the Plenty design system as well. So all these small cues help users a lot. And uh, similarly, like for the mobile responsiveness, like we have added mobile responsiveness for the navigation system as well. So when you look at the navigation system on desktop, it just looks very much similar to mobile, because like we do not want to eliminate elements, like we wanted to make it mobile first and mobile friendly. We wanted to include all the different aspects of desktops into mobile that we are building here. So talking about that, like, and we have a constraint about the area when it comes to mobile. We have a very less real estate. That's when we wanted to utilize the hamburger menu here. So hamburger menu handles all the different menus that goes along on the top navigation, and it will just segregate the respective menus inside it, like when someone clicks on it or interacts with that hamburger menu, and people can close it again like if they want. And individual sections of trade and earn, like all the different menus are also handled separately into different groups. And it's good for products, like I said, with less menus and functionalities. And again, like it takes up less space and all. It's very similar to desktop. And it's a very known mental model. Like a mental model, I mean, like people are very much used to hamburger menus. Like they would definitely want to click on it to further know about what that product offers. That's when we wanted to use hamburger menu, and it just saves a lot of real estate. Like if you see Plenty's interface, and when I make it responsive, it just saves a lot of interface area, like on the top, with just an icon on the top here. Yeah. So that's the primary aspect of navigation system. And flash messages and animations. This is just about communication. Like when I talk about flash messages, I would just wanted to uh, talk about all the different ways of, like ways into communicating with the users. Like we just wanted to keep the users informed about every aspect, like uh, every process. During the entire process, we wanted to keep them informed about the process that is going on, or how it is going on, like what are the status of that process. That's when we wanted to include a bit of animations, a popovers and or models that you may call at different stages, so that like people are informed. This way, like people feel safe about the transactions or anything that is going on during the entire process. And you may want to include flash messages as well, with a bit of animations. Yeah, like you can include animations which might look like, again, like I just wanted to replay the navigation animation here. You may want to consider this process. You may want to consider adding this interaction only after like a certain process gets over, and this can be overlapped onto different other pages as well. So it need not be specific for one particular module. This flash message can appear at different modules wherever the user is navigating to. And yeah, like it's communication is the key behind why we are using all these models and animations and flash messages. So again, like it's about keeping users informed about what is going on through the appropriate feedback within reasonable amount of time. And that time is like once whenever you wanted to communicate on things, you can use flash messages right after something goes wrong, or something is not on the right mark, or something is successful, or something you wanted to communicate to the users. It's just an independent kind of a component that can be used at different stages. And what happens when you do it? Like when you communicate and keep users informed about things that are going on in the interface, you're building trust. Like it's the only and foremost thing a new user who's onboarding the product and is going through the experience needs. It's about building trust, and users want that interactions and want that interface to be predictive as well. They would want to look the whole experience in a way that like they've already perceived it. Like they wanted to match the experience with the things that they've already seen it. Like that's when we wanted to do all the communicative aspects and components at different stages of the dapp browsers, or the transactions that is going on for plenty. And yeah, the legacy screens, so swap screen, like it's one of the legacy screen for plenty. And talking about building an experience on this component and this interface here, it's just about matching users journey with with the path they choose. Like for example, let's say like people land into trade, like that's when you can see the swap screen here. There are different kind of nuances seeing this interface. It may not be obvious here, but like you may look at a lot of interactions like selecting a token, and you're having a drop down also in here, and you are also having connecting wallet twice here. And what will happen after I connect a wallet? What will happen before I connect a wallet? All these things are handled on the design system of plenty that you can utilize from. And it just has its own interactive elements that will have the different the different edge cases and hovering states and interacting states in itself. So on default, it would just throw in a default kind of screen where the token 2 is not selected. And when the token 2 is not selected, you would want to disable the CTA so that the process is not moving forward. So that's when this is when you connect a wallet. After you connect a wallet, you would want to you can you will be seeing the change of color as well as the text to swap once you connect a wallet. And this is how a default screen looks like. And after you type something on the first input, and after you choose something on the token 2, you would have everything, all the different queues that are built in the interface here. So talking about the balance, like it is made violet so that it's made clickable. That's when the visual cue is communicating that people can interact with it. And on the token input, it's on gray, indicating that it's not interactable. And when someone starts typing, like the grayish input would turn back to black. And it would have an elevated kind of a character on token 2 that indicates that this is how much you receive, adding in more focus, adding in more emphasis on the token 2. Like all these characters on building all the different components is very much useful for that experience to build for a user. So when talking about further talking about swap screen, like we have made sure that like we are using sufficient amount of icons, icons or hotspots of at different places on the different places of the screen that communicates about what is going on. Like for example, the tooltip icon, like the swapping value icon, and icons for drop down, like with the chevron here. Like all these things are communicating users about whether they need to interact with it, whether they need to click on it, or whether they need to hover on it. All these things are taken care, and that mental model is achieved for that particular user. And talking about fonts and typography here, we use DM Sans, and we have taken up the library of typeface which has a very strong in character, which has weights and sizes and scale that is very much easily readable for a user compared to other AMMs and DEXs out there. It's just so much easier for people to start typing and start perceiving what is happening on the different stages of people interacting with it. And as I said again, like tooltips are also being used at different spots where users need a product tour, or users need guidance too. And in here, like if you notice that, like it's just very different from the other fonts, that font color that we have used. It's just that, like, it's a visual cue, an indication that, like, your impact is high by choosing the color red. Like when you choose the right amount of colors, then you're communicating the intent in a different way. It's just about choosing the right colors and choosing the right number of font weights. Yeah, and again, like it's a tooltip that we use for the routing module here, like routing section here. It just talks about what that routing is. Like it 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 talks about a small a perspective. Like it's a tooltip that communicates about what is going on the routing, like how you wanted to perceive that routing, how you wanted to read that routing, with an illustration, as well as when you when someone has that stable swap icon, like icon visual cue along with that tokens, like what does it communicate about? Like it's just about, like, informing users about how you wanted to read the routing section here. Yeah, and talking further about the text fields of swap screen. So talking about text fields, like it in itself has a lot of interactions that we have used at different places. If you might notice that, like if I hover over the input field, you would see a change of colors or a change of visuals in here. That's what we have taken care on the design system as well. User should understand the state of the field in a glance. It's about, like, what how it looks like when someone is not interacting with it. It's about how it is perceived when it is like when it is not being used, or when it is not being uh, typed or something. So, like, it's the default interface looks like this, and when hovering, it would have a character around it. It would have that highlighting of that particular text field, with the highlightation on token selection as well, a clear visual cue on the optimal usability of it. And while typing, you may notice that, like, the color changed to a black tone, a much contrasted tone, indicating that you started typing, and it would add a border of the primary color around it. And it would also communicate errors also along with it. So it's all the different nuances on edge cases that that a possible text field can deliver is handled on this design system here. And when someone opens this drop down, So like how do we want to handle this drop down? Like it's like we are doing it in a model basis, like a pop-up basis. We have a pop-up also included on the design system. And talking about the mobile responsiveness of it, we have we made sure that like the entire experience of swap is mobile first. Like I said previously, it's mobile friendly, and we wanted to eliminate the friction. We do not want any interaction upfront. As in desktop, like we have made sure all the different bits of information is just feeded one at a time and not entirely like the desktop. That's when we moved into the hamburger menu, and a lot of other different aspects have also relooked into have we relooked into while building the mobile responsiveness. And when talking about mobile responsiveness, it's about tap and click majorly, and you cannot involve a cursor hovering over an element and all. That's when we wanted to have a different kind of a text field interaction in here. It's just slightly different from desktop field. It's more about tap and click, and it's about thumb accessibility. Like when talking about the interface here, it just have uh, close to 600 pixels or maybe 800 pixels in height. So when dealing with an interface like that, like you would want to consider how users interact with the mobile interaction. It's about thumbs, it's about fingers that people use. There are different ways people use a mobile navigation and mobile system. So considering all these aspects, like we wanted to build a mobile design system that is very much user friendly, and users should not have to wonder where they are. Like again, like when talking about mobile interfaces as well, we have a flash messages and communicate to elements at different places on the mobile system. It's just that like it is interactable in a different way using taps and clicks. Yeah, and you may want to use a lot of scalar vector graphics, SVGs, for all the icons and all the different elements, so that it's the scaling issues are not there when you do it for different environments. Let's say for tabs and desktops, you may want to, if you are involved using a PNGs or JPEGs, it's just difficult to handle the different transforming properties of that element. If you use a SVG, it's very much easier. Yeah. So the next interface, it's bridges screen. Talking about bridges, it's just quite an interesting module, and we were working on this for like close to 2 months, I guess. Like, and then we come up with a lot of nuances and a lot of user journeys and research that we wanted to, you know, make it open source for people here. So talking about mobile bridges, like the primary aspect for building this bridges module that you see on Plenty's bridge here is we wanted to make all the functionalities occur in one interface, or like one workflow, let's say. So that's when we wanted to go on an approach of a card based, and card based is where you can deal with a lot of different progress and process within the same card itself, not disturbing the entire interface. I'll just go further on this. So, when talking about bridges, it's just about, like again, like communicating and providing a tour for the users. When talking about bridges in here, like it was just a new module, and when you're launching a new functionality or a feature, let's say even you're working on any tasks during the hackathon, like you would want to communicate to users about how you need to do it. Again, like it's about the experience. That's when we wanted to include product tours and product videos that will link users into the respective videos here. Videos are not, like it's not necessary to include videos, but you may include contextual copies on that interface itself, so that people are informed about the new features that are being launched. And you can communicate, like communicate about what is happening on the bridges, uh, as a process stepper on how to use the plenty bridge. Like for example, in here, like how you can start with using plenty, like what is the intent of this bridge module. So like all these things can be communicated in two different ways, like one is using the videos and one is with contextual copies. And talking further about more about bridges here, uh, it's it's about, like like you would, again, like as I said, it's about not disrupting the whole workflow. Like it just happens within one screen itself, handling everything in one card itself. You would want to communicate with the users without disrupting the underlying flow. Again, like everything, every interactions, every functionality, every kind of new features that we wanted to include in this model happens in one kind of workflow, and not disrupting the entire page, and not redirecting users into an entire page. That was the intent for bridges here. And a lot of hotspots, like for example, when you wanted to do everything in one workflow, like you would want to include a lot of hotspots, or like visual cues at different places. Like for example, where you want to start with, like where you how you wanted to interact with, like all the different cues of what has been selected on the input field here. All the things have been handled during on this process here. And talking about here, like when when you have an history page, like in bridges page, we do have a history page, like that would take users into the transaction history, like what is happening, or like what are the process that you were involved with on this module, so that like the users are again like informed about the different kind of things that happen over the course. So the all the it just has a list of all the different things. So when you talk about a list, like it just numerous. So when it is just numerous, you would want to have include a lot of visual cues for the different types of transaction, on how you want to sort and filter, so that like people can search for that particular transaction or anything that they want to see in the past. And you may want to provide statuses of the transaction when it is incomplete, so that like they can be redirected into that incomplete uh, process and start continuing and complete that from there. And furthermore about the progress bars, like we have this like bridging module separately on plenty design, like that will have the sequence of steps here, all the sequence of steps on how you need to bridge. And we do have a video also in here. So like when you go through all the different modules here, like you will come to know about the individual components being used, that may be useful for your task that you're working on, the themes that you're working on. That's when we will be talking about this particular module. An interesting section here, it's about the progress or the process stepper. This was taken into account only that, only so that like people are again like being informed about the process that is happening. So when you want to achieve everything in one workflow and one kind of a component and a card, like you would want to eliminate a lot of areas around it. You wouldn't want to touch anything, any aspects of the navigation or the redirection onto it. That's when you have a very limited space, and that's when you can handle all the different processes as a stepper. So again, like the first and foremost is using a stepper, and communicating about how much time frame it will take for the process to get completed. and informing users about where they stand, and displaying your progress through a sequence by breaking it up. Again, like it's the progress stepper. People may know where they stand, and and how much was completed in the stepper, and the it gives you a history of all the different things that are happening. Let's say on this particular step of minting, like you are waiting for signatures, and again you have a visual cue with the a loader that is happening during this process, and the CTA is not yet enabled, and it will just be enabled after the process gets over. And yeah, like the current progress, what is the user's current location within the process? Oh, that's been indicated with violet here, and green is indication about the process that got over. Yeah. So the entire intent for building design system for plenty was just to delight even the ordinary. Like that was our entire intent, and we are restlessly reinventing the wheel again. Like we have just made sure that we take the first steps on to rethinking the process of design thinking into plenty, and that's when we came up with the design system that will be useful definitely for you guys. And always reinvent the wheel and never settle. And that's the yeah, that's the end of the session here. And you may ask any questions if you have, or right now. Yeah, and you may follow me, or you may ask any questions through my Discord here, and you can follow me on Twitter as well, and uh, you can have any kind of guidance throughout the process of building, throughout the process of during the hackathon using my Discord invite, like Discord profile here. You can scan it and you can send invite, and you can just ping me whatever doubts you have. Yeah, that's that.
All right. Thank you so much, Srinivas. That's a very wonderful presentation. Yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask Srinivas on his Discord and Telegram. These materials will also be available and will be provided by the TezAsia Hackathon coordinators. And you can go to the link that we have put in the comment section below. Yep. Thank you so much, Srinivas, for that. Yeah, for the rest of you all, have a good night and hope to see wonderful projects in TezAsia Hackathon. Thank you. Good day.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.